Okay, so we are going live for the Career Ask Me Anything series here on YouTube Live. My name is Maggie Muldoon. I work at Mouse as the for the. Make sure you close YouTube. Okay, so we are going live. All right, do we have that window closed? Okay, so we are going live for the Career Ask Me Anything series here on YouTube Live. My name is Maggie Muldoon. I work at Mouse as the for the. Hey, make sure you close YouTube.
That's not me. I have mine. Uh-oh.
All right, do we have that window closed? Okay, so we are going live.
Yeah, I don't have YouTube open either.
Here on YouTube Live. My name is Maggie Muldoon. I work at Mouse as the. Okay, hopefully we got that sorted out. Sorry about that, everyone. We are. Yeah, all right, I don't hear any more echo. Apologies. Okay, anyway, as I was saying, my name is Maggie Muldoon. I'm the Design League Manager at Mouse. And here with us today is Ariana, who's going to be our co-moderator live in Jersey City. And then we have our very special guest today, Shane Garraway. So Shane, we're really happy to have you here and thank you so much for coming. And yeah, I'll let you just sort of introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your current jobs and your career path so far.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, Maggie. Thank you for reaching out. My name is Shane Garraway. I'm a mechanical engineer. Currently, I'm with the Long Island Railroad. I work as a mechanical engineer with supporting maintenance of equipment and procurement. I'm gonna start by going over a bit of my bio and my career trajectory to kind of give whoever's watching an idea. That's like what brought me to where I am. So I was actually born in the Caribbean. I migrated to the United States when I was 10. When I came up here, I was always interested in the sciences, and eventually, once I started high school, I went to Brooklyn Tech, and there I was part of the Gateway to Medicine program. So I was studying biochemistry, and so there I took a lot of science classes, and I was on track to kind of go into medicine or some type of chemistry or medical field. However, I decided when deciding on college program, I decided to go to NYU Poly and study mechanical engineering for a number of reasons. First reason was I always like building things. I like tinkering things. And I believe, and I'm also a very creative person, and I'm also a very technical person. And I feel like engineering was a good combination of both being creative and being technical. So as an engineer, you're able to think of solutions to problems and use the math and the technical skills that you've learned to figure out the math behind what those solutions would take and if they're feasible or not. So that was one of the driving factors for me deciding to go to NYU Poly and we decided to be a mechanical engineer. While I was in school, I was heavily involved on campus. I was a part of the National Society of Black Engineers. In that organization, I took a number of leadership positions. There I was able to support initiatives on campus to retain engineers and people who wanted to pursue engineering, and also reach out to high schools and junior high schools and such to speak to those not yet in college who are interested in a career in engineering. Eventually, I started to plan conferences under that organization, and I think it was my sophomore year, I got my first internship. That was at a small manufacturing plant in Brooklyn. Just doing some tool and die work, which is basically just machining small fixtures. They did some aerospace work. They did some other custom work. But there I got my first taste of working in a professional environment. And one thing I can say is just, don't be afraid to, what I literally did was I just went on Google and I looked up, machine shops in Brooklyn. And I just called up, 20 different places asking if they wanted someone to intern for the summer. And, one of the places that I reached out to, they said, they didn't have any listings anywhere. They didn't post it anywhere. They weren't on Monster or LinkedIn or anything. But they said, you know what, we are looking for someone to come on board for the summer. We would like some help. And then I was able to get that opportunity. So it's kind of like a old school meets new school approach of how I got my first internship, kind of like, just going to the white pages back in the day. But now it's just going on Google, seeing what neighborhood you are interested in and working in and seeing what companies are there. So that's how I got my first bit of experience in the professional industry. After that, I got my second internship at a medium-sized company that did shade systems. So they did mechanized shade systems. So that was actually interesting to see the science and the technology behind that, because the way they use motors and springs to tension the cable and wiring and the shades was actually really cool, and the electronic systems that were included in those. So, and I built a lot of test fixtures and did a lot of calculations and 3D rendering and modeling for that company, and it was a great learning experience. It's a great team of engineers there as well. And then once I graduated, I actually had a position lined up for me with Sikorsky Aircraft. So I worked in the helicopter industry for about 3 years once I graduated. There I worked primarily with aerostructures. So aerostructures are basically the cabin of the helicopter. So the kind of like the aluminum and carbon fiber structure that holds the people and cargo and fuel systems. So I did a lot of work with composite materials, sheet metals, and framings, things like that. So that was great, working with a lot of intelligent people. That was out in Connecticut. I started off as a process engineer, doing a lot of manufacturing work. Then I transitioned over to supplier quality, which was great to work with not only just one aircraft, but across the different platforms, different aircraft and different suppliers, and helping to troubleshoot quality issues and optimize processes and things like that. And then eventually I decided that I wanted to move back to New York, and but I also wanted to continue to work as a mechanical engineer with vehicles. So I decided to transition to work with the LIRR. And now I'm serving as a mechanical engineer, supporting maintenance of equipment activities, which is basically making sure that the trains are serviceable, making sure that they run properly, and then also with new car procurement. So whenever we're buying new equipment, I get involved in certain aspects of that from an engineering standpoint, such as looking over the technical specifications and making sure that we're getting what we want. So so that's a little bit about my experience and my background, what I do, what I've done. And when was this last year, I was approached by a colleague of mine about working with Mouse as a, what's it called, a design league mentor. And I had a great time working with Maggie and the team at Mouse. Beautiful people there, great students, very engaging. I always enjoy giving back to communities and talking to the youth and showing them the different pathways to realizing their dreams and having fun while doing so. So I appreciate this opportunity to talk to everyone today.
Great, thank you so much. Do you want to share a little bit about your other kind of business or projects that you're working on? Okay,
so on top of my STEM and technology-based work and experience, I have a lot of different interests. I'm a skateboarder, so I'm very active in skateboarding community. That's how I stay fit. That's how I exercise and things at this point. And a part of that is just being mindful of my wellness. Also being not only just staying fit through skateboarding, but being overall well. So I'm always I was actually studying massage therapy for about 1.5 years. And I was in school while I'm serving as a mechanical engineer, taking night classes to be a massage therapist, to just diversify my skill set. And also, I'm interested in a lot of different topics. So I was able to, I was studying massage therapy for about 1.5 years. I I have since withdrawn from the program because I don't particularly want to study massage therapy online or remotely, and that's how a lot of colleges are trending right now. So so that's another thing that I'm involved in. A couple of my friends, they have businesses that they run. Some friends own storefronts, some friends have like, media agencies, and they appreciate my input and perspective. So sometimes I I talk about things with them, give them some ideas as to my perspective of things, and they find it valuable. So I have those conversations. I support them in their business endeavors. And I personally am building out my own, business or initiative called Live Love. I have a website called livelove.nyc. On that website, it's based around balancing the different aspects of, of this modern world that we live in. So we live in a very technology-based world. So one of the pillars of Live Love is STEM. And while living in this technology-based world, we have to be mindful of our wellness, whether that's our physical wellness, or mental wellness, or financial wellness. So that ties in with wellness. That's another pillar of the Live Love platform. And then art is one of the greatest forms of expression. And as human beings, we have a desire to express ourselves and appreciate the expression of others. So art is another one of those pillars. And then gratitude. Gratitude is it kind of translates roughly in this, in my idea as community, just being grateful for the communities that you're a part of, being grateful for the world that we're a part of, being mindful of our impact on, on nature, on the animals, on the water that serves us and that provides for us. So it just so happens that STEM, wellness, art, and gratitude spells swag, which is really cool. But yeah, so that's something else that I'm building out on the side, just like as I go, because when I find myself in these technology spaces or these wellness spaces or these art spaces or these community-based spaces, I meet a lot of amazing individuals, and this website is going to kind of just organize and present them in a way that folks who are looking for that information or are looking to have access to more of those types of organizations or individuals will be able to go and see them. And I'm looking to feature people that I already have relationships with that I feel would, be, valuable to share with whoever's checking out the website. So yeah, so it's kind of like a curated list of resources.
That is excellent. And I love your sort of holistic approach to, it's impressive to be a mechanical engineer, but to also sort of seek out ways to be well-rounded and balance yourself out. I think that's really, really cool.
Thank you.
So we have a lot of questions here from students already coming in. And those of you who are watching, please make sure there should be a sign-in form. Make sure you sign in. And also, if you have any questions at all, put them in the chat and we will get to them, or we'll try to get to all of them. So first off, this is from someone at HANAC, Hanak, which is, what's a day in the life? What is a day? What's the day-to-day like in your job? Yeah, so like a day in the life at work on a regular day. What's that like?
So a regular day would be usually start my day with a morning meeting. It's kind of where we have a large meeting with everyone that's involved in the project or represent every group in the project, and we talk about what happened in the last 24 hours. We go over the schedule for the day, who needs to report where to do what work, and we go over what's happening in the next coming week, and the next coming week and a half. By the end of that meeting, we also resolve any issues, anything that came up in the within the last 24 hours. After that, depending on what's happening, I may report to a test site to perform some type of test on a train that's at one of our support shops, or I might be doing some inspections on the mechanical systems of the train or the electronic systems of the train to see to make sure that they're functioning properly. Other days, sometimes, I'm doing more administrative things, such as tracking procurements, looking at, some equipment that we may have ordered or some parts that we have ordered. just to make sure that everything's going according to plan. And then also I may be working with suppliers to do some types of demonstrations or maintain like some type of system demonstrations or maintenance demonstrations, which is basically making sure that the parts that we have on the equipment are able to be serviced and that we have the necessary manuals or procedures to perform the service. Yeah.
Great. And a follow-up to that from someone at Chinatown Manpower, which is, what do you like most about your job? Or what's your favorite part?
I like being in the field. I like working with people that are actually putting like, tools to the equipment and making things. That's one of the reasons why I went into, why I'm still in mechanical engineering, because I like seeing things being built, things, tangible things, and working with, a lot of different people with a lot of different experiences from a lot of different, backgrounds, to create, this basically piece of functional art. Because when you look at, mechanical design, there's a lot of artistry that goes into making sure that everything works. Of course, there's technical knowledge that's required, but it's beautiful to me. So I like actually being in the field and working with the equipment and creating things.
That's a great answer. Thank you. Ariana, do you have any questions?
I have one question. Let's see. How does engineering translate to the real world? Someone from HANAC.
How does engineering what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
How does engineering translate to the real world?
How does it differ?
Or translate, I think it
How
was.
does it translate to the I would say engineering, once I started to study engineering, once I made it through my subjects, I got a better understanding as to how the structures that we interact with on a daily basis work. So now when I see, even when I see a building, or I see like a raised platform, or I see a bridge, or I see a train or an airplane or a helicopter, I now, or even like, a piping system or like plumbing, I now understand a bit more of the science that goes behind it. What forces are acting in that system, what's required to make sure that, it functions as it's designed. So it gives you what they call an engineer's eye. So you can look at something now and kind of have a understanding as like, how it's work, whether or not it will work, what, like troubleshooting it. So that's kind of how engineering translates, mechanical engineering at least translates to the real world.
That's a great answer. And I follow up that someone asked to that is, did you ever consider civil engineering or another type of engineering? And how did you decide on mechanical engineering specifically?
I decided on mechanical engineering because I wanted to work with dynamic systems and vehicles. Civil engineering are more static structures. I wanted to work on, planes and boats and trains and like, see how those moving dynamic systems, like, were designed and integrated. And also I'm a skateboarder, so I always like, that was my first vehicle. So I liked, the movement. I always like moving.
Here's one from someone in the chat. Is it hard to balance between your creative interests and your mathematical or engineering interests?
Sometimes it does get hard, but it takes a lot of time management and discipline. So, and that's part of the reason why I sat down and I created the website. The website itself was a feat to create, but in doing the work to sit down and actually think, okay, what do I value? What do I think is the balance? Or what do I think all these different things that I'm interested in kind of fit into buckets? And then doing that, sitting down and calling, I guess it was meditating on that. It helped me to kind of organize my interests into these buckets. And then as such, like, put myself in spaces that align with those, and then just being mindful of my time. Because I love 8 hours of sleep. There's seldom a night goes by where I don't get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep, sometimes 9. And I'm able to accomplish everything that I want to accomplish within those 16 hours because I plan my weeks out, a week or two in advance. So I know I know what I'm doing every day. I work during the day, and then in the evening, I'll be having a meeting. I may be, going somewhere, maybe doing something, but I like to schedule, plan those things out a couple weeks in advance. And then it's big on saying no. So you have to be really good at saying no. So if something comes up and it's like, I know that I'm not able to do this, or I know that I have something else going on, or I know that I need to rest at that time, or I plan to rest at that time, you have to be able to say no. But yeah, I would say time management.
That is great advice. All right, here's a question from Chinyere in the chat. How has the pandemic affected your career? Has it made it harder or easier?
Like I said, I like being in the field. For the first few months of the pandemic, it was, I was working from home, which was a bit dreary for me. I prefer being with the equipment. I prefer, talking to people, interpersonally to get things done. So that was a bit, frustrating at first. And then also I was in massage therapy school, so I had to shift from, doing massage therapy in the evenings to then, doing that online, which I never really took to. I mean, I didn't really like it. Like I want to be, practicing massage, learning the anatomies, learn the techniques, but I wasn't able to do that remotely as effectively as I could in person. So definitely put a shift to things. A lot of the entrepreneurs in my life that I was working with, they had different ideas for their businesses that they were going to execute during the summer and the fall that, had to do a sharp pivot. So, but yeah, again, when you, as an engineer, we think solutions. So I think, okay, these are the facts. This is the control volume that I'm working in. This is what I'm able to do. And then I find a way to, still move things forward.
Great. Ariana, have you got any questions?
I got one. Let's see. Is there any coding involved in your work?
Any coding?
Yes. Is there any coding involved in your work?
No, I don't do any coding. I don't do any HTML, C++, Java, none of that. I don't do any coding. Most of what I do can be accomplished with, Excel. So just spreadsheet processing, word processing, and email.
And here's another one from someone at, I don't know if it's HANAC or HANAC, but what kind of requirements do you need to get a job like yours at Lirr? And kind of like if you're in high school, like what are the things that you should go towards if you're interested in getting that kind of job?
I would, in high school, I would say, first of all, do well in your studies. Make sure that you have a solid GPA. And once you're thinking about entering the workforce in general, it's important to have, as much work experience as possible. So, look for internships, look for volunteering opportunities, look for ways to, be a leader in your, in whatever environment that you're in. And particularly with the Lirr, I think that what gave me the leg up in terms of getting into the company was my experience after, my experience in aerospace. So it's about, like I said, as a high school student, doing well in your subjects, finding opportunities to volunteer, finding opportunities to intern or work in whatever field you're looking to get into, and taking those and then doing your best at them, and again, also feeling out to see if there's something that you really want to do. So.
Great. Mariana, what else do you see there?
I see. How to start a career in technology.
I would say you start your career in technology in school. So, you know, paying particular attention in your physics classes, your math classes, your science classes, talking to your teachers, talking to professionals. You're in the right place if you're listening to this talk and you're connected to Mouse. And then once you're applying for colleges, looking for programs that align with your values and are in places that you see yourself, and are in, like, places that you see yourself, where you can enjoy yourself. So if you want to stay closer to home, look for local colleges. If you want to go away, look for away colleges. And then depending on that environment, that can give you a taste for what your career, your future career. Give me 1 second. I have to grab my charger.
Oh, sure. You guys are doing great with adding questions. We're getting a lot of great questions, but keep them coming. If you hear anything that interests you, we're keeping an eye on the chat. And also, again, if you haven't signed in, please make sure you do sign in. There should be a link in the comments on YouTube as well.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So someone from Catholic Charities is asking, how did you discover that this is what you wanted to do? I think you've sort of gone into that, but was there like a moment or something that happened where you were like, oh, that's mechanical engineering, I want to do that?
When I was younger, when I was like 5, 6, 7, I would always be taking things apart, putting them back together, making things. Always interested in the sciences. I would say that I want to be a scientist. And then once I got to high school, I realized that my idea of what a scientist was actually an engineer. And that came from just, talking to professionals, speaking to my teachers, speaking to people that came to give lectures and had discussions. And then, and yeah, that clarified it for me.
Great. And we asked you about your favorite parts of the job, but what are your biggest challenges at work, or what's the hardest part?
Biggest challenges. I would say sometimes it's just different personalities, dealing with different people, learning, everybody's communication style, respecting, everyone's communication style. It can be challenging sometimes because as an engineer in an environment that we work, you have to continuously, determine, what you can and can't do in a space, and building a team around you of people that you can count on, and knowing what everybody's capable of. That takes some time. I wouldn't say that's a challenge per se, but it takes time because you really have to get to know the people that you work with and know what everyone's skill set is and know what everyone's able to do and accomplish. So it's it just takes a bit of time to get all that sorted out. But once you do, then, and you know what you can and can't expect from people, and you know what you and you have an idea, so like, how long it will take for something to get done, then you're able to kind of project things out and plan accordingly better. So yeah, that's the biggest challenge, I would say.
That's a great answer, and actually goes into another question that someone asked, which is, you talk about how you plan out your weeks and plan out things at work, but how do you stay organized, and what do you use any tools for that kind of planning?
I use my notes app in my phone. So I just keep a running list of to-do lists and, things. I just do, day by date, line by line. This is what I'm doing on this date. And yeah, it works for me. It's a pretty rudimentary tool compared to everything that's out there these days. I know that there's like Google Calendar and all these other things that people use. I recently started to use Google Calendar here and there, but yeah, for me, I like Notes app. Before this, I used to just use a pad and paper and just write everything down, and day by day, like, wake up in the morning and write out what I'm doing for the day. I still do that sometimes if it's a particularly hectic day, just to like remind myself, okay, I'm doing this, that, and that, and I want to get these things done, and these are the times that I'm going to be doing them. But yeah, I use my notes app and pad and paper and Google Calendar recently. Started to lean into that a bit more.
Excellent. We have a few different questions about looking towards the future. Some people asking like if you would want to start your own business or if you would ever want to change careers. So I think I'll just kind of combine those by asking like, where do you see yourself in maybe 5 years?
5 years, I could see myself still doing what I'm doing now. Still working with the railroad, still as a mechanical engineer, maybe doing, still doing, the work that I'm doing now, but with more responsibility. Still, being involved in my community, still working on my side project, just maintaining the things that I'm doing. Not looking to any major shifts within the next 5 years. So again, a lot of people underestimate the value of just, learning something and getting it down. Like, just being present in what you're doing. That's also important. Like 5 years seem like a long time, but it's really not. 5 years can blink by really fast. And especially when you're in an environment where you have so much opportunity to learn and grow, taking the time to really master something, that's good as well. Eventually, down the line, I would like to, live my life as a global citizen, being able to work remotely for, whatever company I'm working for, and, be able to be present in, other countries and, do the same type of, community work and entrepreneurial endeavors that I do in the United States, but in another country, while still, working remotely on other things.
Great. All right, Ariana, what do you got?
I got one. Is it hard to balance between your creative purposes and more mathematical interests?
I think we might have actually asked that one already.
Oh, we might ask that one? Okay. What about another one? Do you ever get burned out? Have ever thought of switching careers?
Have I ever gotten burnt out? Yes, I have gotten burnt out before. It was when I first, because I moved back to New York before I left my job in Connecticut, because my aerospace job was in Connecticut. And I underestimated how taxing my commute was on my body. So, having to drive 2 hours, 2.5 hours each way from, I was living in Queens at the time to Connecticut, that put a lot of strain on my body. I wasn't eating well. And, kind of just really took a toll on me, and then started to get really anxious, really burnt out while I was still trying to juggle everything that was on my plate. So that was that. That was pretty intense time. What was the other part of the question?
I think it was, did it ever make you think about switching careers?
No, it didn't make me think about switching careers. It just made me rethink what my priorities were, and where I really wanted to grow my career. So I see myself as a mechanical engineer for a while. I see myself, working with vehicles and mechanical systems, in some capacity for a while. I like it. I enjoy it. But I just had to, again, think about, the wellness aspect of my life, for my body. And then also think about, I have a huge affinity for the arts, which is why I wanted to move back to New York. I wanted to be closer to the cultural institutions here. So, that was also one of the things that drew me back to New York. So, just thinking about what I valued and what spaces I wanted to be in. It wasn't necessarily a shift in career, but just a shift in, I guess, geography.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. To think about, maybe you don't want to switch the job, but like thinking about where you want to live and what's going to be healthy for you is smart. There is a question in the chat about like salary ranges, and I don't want to ask you that, but I do, thinking about money when you're deciding what kind of career to pursue is important. So I just want to make sure you guys know that a lot of companies have to put how much they pay people, that information publicly. So any career you can think of, if you put it into Google, you'll get websites like salary.com and glassdoor.com that will tell you exactly like what the range is that people make on average in any career. So I definitely encourage you to like look around at that.
Yeah, Glassdoor is a great resource for things like that. And just go on any website, monster.com, LinkedIn Careers, Indeed, and look up mechanical engineering jobs, like at whichever company, and they usually have salary ranges posted there.
Yeah, and Glassdoor is also a place where, I mean, depending on how big the company is, people will rate, like, there's ratings of like how friendly of a place is this, how flexible of a place. So you can kind of, when you're looking at where you want to apply, that can be a good place to look things up. And with that, we have another kind of like left field question, which I just have to ask because it's here. Do you ever skate in Washington Square Park?
Not frequently, but maybe like once or twice a year. I'm in Washington Square Park for one reason or another with my skateboard.
Cool. So that's from someone in the chat.
I'm usually I usually skate in Canarsie or downtown Brooklyn.
Cool.
Or Bed-Stuy, Brownsville, Bushwick area.
So this is a good question from Abigail, and also from someone from Panic asking, like, how do you measure success in your field? And like, how do you feel successful in your field? What makes you feel successful?
Success. How do I measure success in my field? I mean, engineering is pretty objective and it's project based. So the health of your project kind of gives you a good metric. So how on schedule your tasks are, how on time, like your intended activities are to being executed as a solid metric. But on an individual level, I would say, the opportunities that present themselves, like I was told in my career, like, when you're a good worker, you're going to get invited to things. You're going to get work sent your way. People are going to know that you're someone that gets things done. So that's kind of like one of the telltale signs that you're doing a good job when opportunities are presented to you, or like, people advocate for you. Yeah, your peers and like, management.
Can you complete this sentence? You might make a good mechanical engineer if you
have a good imagination.
Ooh, that's cool. All right, Ariana, do you see any questions you want to ask?
Were you ever injured on the job?
Was that ever what?
Were you ever injured on the job?
No, I was never injured on the job. Wait, yes, actually I was. When I was interning, actually I was using a drill press and I got injured on my hand. It wasn't that bad, but it was my left hand, so it wasn't my right hand. But yeah, it was tough. After that, the job, they put in place some new training with the safeties and things like that for the equipment. But yeah, that was one time I was injured.
When you were deciding what you wanted to pursue as a career, was there anything else you were deciding between, like mechanical engineering or this? And if so, how did you choose mechanical engineering?
I was considering medicine, but I didn't want to go to school for that many years. So I knew that I can, graduate and like, be doing work and as a mechanical engineer sooner than later. And I like math more than memorization. So that's what tipped the scales towards engineering for me.
Let's see. You guys are asking a lot of great questions, so keep them coming. So here's a follow-up to the coronavirus question. Do you think that the pandemic will affect your line of work in the long run at all?
Yes. I think that, I mean, a lot of the work that I do now is in the field, but a lot of the administrative things that I was doing before in an office, I'm able to, do at home. So I enjoy it because now it's like, if there's something happening in the field that I need to be present for, I go and I do it. And then I can come back home and then continue the administrative work at home. So I have, that privilege now. And across a lot of different industries, which is why earlier on I mentioned that I would like to live my life as a global citizen, because a lot of the administrative and a lot of the calculations and things that I can do that I would be doing at a desk or in an office, I can do remotely, with technology, cell phones and computers now. So I think that is going to change, a bit of the way people do business.
You mentioned that your job involves both like working with people a lot and working with machines and equipment, but what would you say the balance of that is? Like, which is it, more working with people or more working directly on machines?
When you say machines, do you mean like tools or you mean like computers?
Well, the question is worded, is your job more about working with people or machines / equipment? So I would say like anything where you're like building stuff or yeah, working on computers versus like interacting with people and communicating and stuff.
As an engineer, I do a lot. I do readings, I do calculations, I do reviews and things like that of technical information on my computer. I would say that's about 20 to 30%. And then it's, having conversations, having meetings, and then like, disseminating, agreements or like, paths forward or direction to machinists or, technical support and like, people who are actually going to be, drilling things and hammering things and, gluing things. And then I would say that's probably like 60%. And then it's another 10% of like, then another 10% of like administrative things. But yeah, I'd say most of it is interacting with people, whether it be meetings or, talking to machinists or operators to get things done, or things like that.
I think your job actually sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has its. I think I've been thinking about that a lot recently. Like the more I spend time out in the field and like, building things and getting things done, the more fun I have. So it's cool.
We talked a bit about challenges, but this question's about what's like unexpected challenges? Like what's something that's unexpected about your job or that might surprise people? Do you ever deal with like unexpected things on a day-to-day basis?
One unexpected thing on a day-to-day basis. I wouldn't say there's anything unexpected on a day-to-day basis, but I would say one thing that people don't think about as as engineers, or like, as one thing that I didn't really think about as a mechanical engineer was working with unionized labor and unionized, workforces. They're very specialized, trades and crafts that people are trained specifically to do. And then having an understanding as to like, what those agreements are, what those individuals are able to do and not do. And then making sure that you have, the time allocated on whatever project you're doing for those people to, show up and like, do their job that they're trained to do. That's something to consider that, a lot of people don't think about when they think about engineering and working with like, hard products. That's something I experienced in aerospace and now I'm experiencing in the rail industry. But it's great. It's awesome. It's something that, yeah, it's cool. it's not so much a challenge, but it's just something that's not usually thought about or talked about.
That is very cool. So here's one. If you could give yourself, I'm kind of rephrasing this, but if you could go back and give yourself any piece of advice to your young self to like help you in this career, what would it be?
I would say stay in New York. I mean, that's just for me. That's just for me. I would say, I would say try to, keep your career in New York. Spend more time thinking about, your personal culture, what you value as an individual. What do you want to go home to? What do you want to do after work? What do you want to do on your weekends? What interests you? Because you can find a job that sounds amazing. You're doing all this amazing work. You're going to be working on this amazing product, but you're in the middle of nowhere and you're not going to have fun as someone in their early 20s, and then you may be miserable. So it's about, thinking a holistic approach to your career and knowing what you value as a person. If you're able to live in that environment, you're able to thrive and you're able to be successful in that way, then sure. But really thinking about not just what you're doing 9 to 5, but also what you're going to be doing 5 to 9 and what kind of spaces you want to be in after work, because that affects your ability to do work. The way that you spend your time outside of work affects your efficacy as a person and your ability to show up at 100% when you go back to work and be satisfied.
Great. Well, so there are a few different, you talked about how when you started, you kind of got your foot in the door by like just looking up places near where you were that did something similar to what you wanted to do, and you just like called them until you found a place to give you an internship, which I think is really good advice and really, people really rely on things online, but sometimes it is good to just pick up the phone like you did. So I admire that. But do you have any other advice for like landing your first internship or job, especially an internship like in this field, to like try it out?
I would say, talk to upperclassmen, talk to your professors, get involved in organizations on campus, see what professionals are doing and what people who are already and listen, watch the news as well, see what's trending in the news, what markets are emerging, what businesses are emerging, and all that, kind of makes you informed about what's out there, what's possible for you to be a part of. And what else? Yeah, no, I think that's it. I'll give you a good head start. And then also, do your homework. So yes, I called up these 20 places or so places, but I looked at their website, I looked at their product, I looked at, who their leadership was. I saw how my experience lined up with what they were doing, how my classes lined up with what they were doing, so I can talk a little bit of their language too. So it's good to do your homework on whatever businesses or industry you're interested in, so that you can speak that language with whoever you interface with.
Fantastic. There's a few questions, and actually I'm going to say right now, guys, if you have any last questions that haven't been answered already, now is the time to put a last question in the chat. But so there's one or two questions that were sort of about how do you know for sure that something is your passion? Like if when you're in high school, there's not that many opportunities to really try mechanical engineering necessarily. And if you think that's what you want to do and you decide to study it, were you 100% sure that this was going to be what you wanted to do, or was it kind of a risk when you pursued it?
I mean, it was a bit of a risk. It was a bit of a risk. And again, obviously it's not 100% of what I want to do, because I'm still doing massage therapy. I'm still involved in the arts. I'm still making a website for myself. I would say, just putting yourself in different spaces. You know what I'm saying? Just yes, like, you know, you were interested in this thing, you want to be successful at this thing, but don't put yourself in a box. Expose yourself to different ideas, to different communities, to different industries. Read different things, like, you know, attend, you know, different conferences, different meetings, different workshops, and, you know, see what interests you, and then also think about the intersections of the things that interest you. So it's like, you know, not just being a mechanical engineer, but you're a mechanical engineer, but you love coding. So you think about, you know, mechatronics and things like that. You think about possibly going into robotics. You're a mechanical engineer, but you like wellness. So maybe you can think about, like, you know, exercise equipment and things like that. You know what I'm saying? So there's different ways to kind of mix and match different ideas and industries and find something that is for you. You don't have to pigeonhole yourself into any one box. You can, and if there isn't an opportunity, but if there's something that you're really passionate about, then you can also create it for yourself. Don't knock entrepreneurship. You know, go to business school, say, hey, I had this idea, figure out a way to build a team, and hire the people or contract the people that can bring your idea to life, and then take that route too. So yeah. But I mean, that's what I do. I mean, I'm still pretty young. I'm 28 years old. I'm still putting myself in places to experience things and do things. I'm grateful that, you know, I enjoy the work that I do. I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to explore all the different things that I'm interested in. And I want to see as many people, you know, experience that joy as well.
I think that's such good advice. And actually, for those of you who've been with us for the last few weeks, I think every guest so far has said something similar. Like, even if you have the job that you really like, it's great to continue to, like, let your interests sort of guide you. And if you have an interest in something, pursue it and learn about it along with whatever your career is, because that can help you find the next thing. So I love to hear you say that sort of stuff. We're just about at the end. Do you have any, like, last words of wisdom or advice, or like anything you want to share?
One thing I would say is, you high schoolers, you guys are going to be living in a world that no one else has lived in or experienced or had to, like, you know, figure out. There's a lot of opportunity here for you guys to be creative. You know, don't be afraid to speak your mind, or, like, you know, have your voice be heard, because it's your life that you have to live. And again, like, you know, read a lot, expose yourself to a lot of different ideas. Just because something hasn't been done, you know, doesn't mean it's impossible. And just because something has been done doesn't mean that you can't do it your own way. So yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. It's been so great to hear from you. I feel like I've learned a lot. And it's great hearing from a New York City native talking to New York City kids about your job. So just, we really, really appreciate your time and your expertise. And yeah, huge thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And guys, we'll be back next week with a new guest. So come on back next Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
All right.
Okay, thanks again, Shane.
Good night.
Thanks, Ariana.
Oh, there's more questions?
No, we're done.
Hey, Ariana.
Bye.